We have now approached our concluding segment for today, and that is tax strategies. This is presented to us by that well-renowned CPA of the Washington metro area by the name of Mr. Manjit Singh. Mr. Singh has several offices in this area. His headquarters are located in Falls Church, Virginia. With this new year, Uncle Sam has swept in new rules and regulations. I suggest for you to please tune in to the Capitol Forum every week, where CPA Manjit Singh will keep you abreast with the latest tax strategies. Let's see his take for this week.
Hello folks, good morning on this Saturday morning. In the last 2 weeks, I have talked with one attorney of mine about setting up corporations and the maintenance of corporations in the past. As you know, we have a lot of people in our community who are on H-1B visas who have called me up and asked me questions. Can they own corporations, or they are interested in doing business with their friends, etc. So in the series of these topics, I have invited Samuel J. Levine, an attorney in the Washington area, practicing immigration law for the last 40 years that I'm aware of, even though I've been in this country 30 years, and worldwide helping people on H-1B visas and immigration visas, be it L-1 visas and fiancé visas and other visas. So today I'm going to pose him that question. You've been hearing me talk about what you can do as corporations. Today I thought that I will have him tell us what he thinks about individuals on H-1B visa starting corporations in the U.S. Mr. Levine?
Thank you very much. If asked, can someone on an H-1B formulate an L-1, the answer is a very meek no. However, there are ways to get around it. The rule would be the H-1B is with a specific employer, and thus they cannot be employed by the new entity to create the L-1. They can, however, receive some fringe benefits, and I'll leave it up to Mr. Singh and other accountants who would be able to advise you as to whether you need a 1099 or not. For instance, if you have the need for medical insurance, life insurance, perhaps even an IRA. No, IRA would require a tax notification. Anything that would not require tax notification to the IRS would be acceptable. However, this is not a simple process. And you really need to look carefully at your current situation and whether you can withstand the financial difficulties of an L-1 visa.
Mr. Levine, in your experience, when you have represented your clients, when at the time of interview from H-1B visa to a green card status, if I'm not mistaken, the immigration agent has asked to provide copies of the income tax returns.
Yes.
If they see an item of income other than the W-2 on the tax return, has that agent ever said, hey, you have this income, did you violate your H-1B status? What's your experience on that?
They do ask, but then it depends on the source of the benefits. Thus, if there's no source, it can be explained away as a fringe benefit or a bonus from the original H-1B employer.
So theoretically, when we have a corporation, there are different ways, types of corporations. A C chapter corporation, for example, the profit of the corporation is taxed at the corporate level by itself.
Yes.
So nothing flows through to the individual personally other than a W-2.
That's correct.
So if an individual who is on H-1B visa owns a stock of a privately held corporation, like something registered in Virginia, unlike an IBM, does not get a W-2, and it lets accumulate his earnings or his benefit within the corporate, and the corporation is paying the income taxes, will that create an issue? Because it doesn't show up on the W-2, on the individual's income tax return.
I think that's perfectly fine.
I think, hey guys, that's a good news. The second aspect then, if I am on a H-1B visa and have bought stock in IBM, IBM issues a dividend.
Yes.
That is a return for my money investment.
That's correct.
So is it will it still hold good if it is from a privately held company rather than a publicly traded company?
Yes, it would, providing you can show that there's an investment and that all investors receive the same dividend.
Excellent. That's another point. Unfortunately, under the fiscal cliff, the dividend income tax rate is going up from 15% to 20%, but guys, you have a room to get compensated. If I look at it, it's provided we can show that there's a reasonable amount of dividend being reimbursed or paid out. Because remember, the corporation is paying the income tax on the profits and you're paying tax on the dividends, so the US government is getting double your money. So I feel you'll be okay there. In the conversation earlier, you mentioned something about L1 visas. Before I touch that, something crossed my mind just now. How difficult is it for an individual to have a concurrent H1? You mentioned the word employer specific. So let's say you have somebody in your company who has an H1B visa, and I need the same guy's skill, and I apply for his H1B visa at my office. Can he have two H1B concurrent visas?
No, generally that's not the policy of immigration. The way to do it, however, is to reapply for an H-1B at the new company to be formed, and immigration will not approve an H-1B if the company is less than 1 year of age.
So if an existing company is there for, let's say, 10 years, and I request for an H-1B visa, they might approve it.
Yes, if it's done correctly, they will approve it.
And the individual can work at two different places, or is still H-1B specific to the new company only?
That is frowned upon, but I have gotten it done. So if I can do it, many other people can.
Yes! So with this good news that you just gave us, what steps the individual who joins the new company should refrain from doing?
Signing checks is one. They can hire and fire employees, because the purpose of the L1, which is what we're talking about essentially, is to stimulate employment in the United States. As to what they cannot do, they cannot maintain any visibility of what they are doing. So for instance, if an H-1B who has a spouse, the spouse can sign a check with a very sloppy signature.
Let's not try to involve the spouse in the business.
Okay.
They create problems. I hope my wife didn't hear that. Anyway, having said this, ladies and gentlemen, here's what I would think would be best. People who want to set up a corporation on H-1B visas, I don't see any reason why not, and it's been confirmed by a very experienced and known attorney in the community. Set it up as a C corporation where the income comes into the company and the company pays income taxes. In terms of remuneration for the H-1B visa individual, we can work on providing fringe benefits like the use of a vehicle, which is company owned,
Yes.
which is not part of taxable income, that they have to pick it up on their personal income tax return. And we can explore other fringe benefits that are possible for such an individual. In terms of compensation for services rendered, let's not give it out. There was once upon a time I was told by another well-known attorney as well that it is better to set it up as a trust and put the money in there so that the company has an expense. I never explored that theory. The other aspect is once the company is becoming more and more mature and older, we can take benefit of what Attorney Levine is just suggested, is to do the H-1 transfer from H-1B visa to an L-1 visa, where it is an executive position and of hiring and firing position. At least the mindset is going. And if all else fails in terms of providing income, I think we could pay out in dividend income. At least it's not going to be taxed at the highest level. If you're in a 28% tax bracket or the new tax rates, which is going to be as high as 39%, the dividend income will still be taxed at 20%. If what I read in the newspapers is correct. Furthermore, if you have developed the idea and you want to get rid of the company, because once you have to let your child grows up, you have to let the child go into the market. You let that go, you have capital gains, and of course then capital gains is going to be taxed at a lower tax bracket than your ordinary income tax bracket. So, any points would you like to add, sir?
No, I think you've covered it very, very well. It's a whole separate topic to go into the requirements of an L1. The L1 application is extremely complicated, and make sure you know what you're doing before you embark on this path, because no matter what the tax rate, failure is real disaster. It can have a zero tax rate, but you don't get your money back.
Well, I see I'm being told that we are running out of time and I need to wrap up. So, Mr. Levine, I would thank you very much for coming and educating us on this aspect. And hopefully in the future, maybe after April 15, you and I can get together and talk more about E-1 visas,
Yes.
where you're making substantial investment to generate jobs and get green cards straight from income tax perspective. So folks, thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you, sir.